Let's stand for the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, 3.0 is to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, agenda is approved. All right, 4.0 are acknowledgements and recognitions, which we don't have any this evening. 5.0 is our recognition of visitors and community comments. So we do have a number of visitors in the room tonight, so welcome and thank you so much for coming to the February 2024 business meeting of the ISC 166 School Board. It's always great to have people here live in person. Hello to everybody out there in cyberspace, either now or in the future. And our community comment section is an opportunity for the public to address the school board on an item included in this agenda in accordance with the guidelines printed at the end of the agenda. And this evening we have a community comment from Miss Tori Prinkle. So
Tori, come on up.
You may come.
And you can sit in that seat right there and then share what you have to share. We're happy you're here.
Yes, welcome.
Today I have a speech for you guys to get confirmation if it's okay with you guys.
Okay.
Well, today I'm here to talk about why we should have shorter school days. Because in my experience, roughly half of the kids in our middle school and high school don't get enough sleep. Kids are wired to stay up late in a school district as spread out as Cook County. Many kids here live far away, which means they have to get up very early. I want to tell you why we need shorter school days. I know that Minnesota Statutes Section 120A 41 requires school districts to provide instruction for a minimum of number of hours and days in a school year. I know that Minnesota Statutes 120A 41 requires that school boards' annual calendars include at least 165 days of instruction for grades in 1 through 11th, unless a 4-day week. Schedules have been approved by the commissioner under Minnesota Statutes Section 124D. I know that parents cannot cut their work schedule in half. We can work with that. If we start late or leave early, people will need to find somewhere for their kids to go. Parents may have to pay for childcare or adjust their work schedules. However, the empty school can be used as a sort of after-school advisory, increase teacher salary for any potential savings. After-school advisory can pay less professional after-school adults. We can still have free breakfast and lunch. The National Bureau of Economic Research did a study. They found out that students who went to school with shorter days had higher standard test scores than students who went to schools with longer days. Another study they did said that kids had higher scores in reading and math with a 4-day week. Some schools that always had lower scores had higher scores with a 4-day week. Their math scores went up by 7% and their reading scores went up by 3%. England went to a 5-hour school day, and their school system is now one of the best.
You're doing great, great.
I'm a good student and I know a lot of kids who struggle with sleep. Kids who always get a good night's sleep are more creative and can concentrate on tasks for longer and have better problem-solving abilities and are able to make positive decisions and are more able to learn and remember new things and have more energy during the day and can make and keep good relations with others. Science says that kids ages 6 to 12 should get at least 9 hours of sleep each day. Sleep is important for brain development, emotional regulation, and mental health.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to officially respond to her, but I'm so proud of you. And I think that I'm amazed that you came to the school board and you had your well-researched paper and you did really well.
Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. There's lots of good information in there for us to consider. Thank you so much for bringing it.
All right.
All right. So that concludes our community comments section. Next, we'll move on to 6.0 reports. 6.1 is the principal's report. Mr. Belangi, hello.
Good, hello, good evening, everybody. So I'm here to give you the principal report for the month of February. We are up to now 125 Sawtooth students recognized for their Junior Vikings values. We are focusing on the value of caring this month, showing people how we can care in Sawtooth. And we've got a lot going on in Sawtooth right now. We're in the process of organizing some pre-K and kindergarten informational open house types of events coming up here to start getting the word out on what we have to offer here. Our third graders will be heading to North House for their Paddle to the Sea programming, where they get to read the classic book and work on making a wooden canoe then, like in the book. Fourth graders will be having their Youth Frontiers retreat. The value they're focusing on in that retreat is kindness, and that's going to be happening on March 5th. Our social worker, Anna Sandstrom, is planning that. And then our fifth graders are heading to Wolf Ridge in a couple weeks, March 6th through the 8th, where they will be participating in ropes courses, orienteering, winter survival. There will not be snowshoeing happening, unfortunately, this winter there, but they are excited for those outdoor educational opportunities. In our middle and high school, there's a lot coming up. Sixth graders, we're supposed to have their snowmobile safety day next week. Again, it's probably not going to happen. So they're postponing it, hopefully not having to postpone it till next year, but that's maybe what it's looking like. And then next week, middle schoolers will be participating in one of their exploratory days. So we're going to be sending a group to Lutzen for skiing and snowboarding. Another group of students will be going to Mink Lake for ice fishing. And then a third group will be heading up to the trail to do some ice skating and some other fun winter activities. Our sports and extracurriculars are kind of winding down. Our ski seasons are over. A few remaining boys basketball games. Our last girls basketball game is tomorrow night. Knowledgeable has a competition next week. And I've already been talking with students about them having to get into running shape for track and field. So that is coming around the corner as well. Juniors and seniors are getting ready for their ACT and SAT tests next month. Course registration is just starting. We're hoping that by spring break, we'll have all of our 8th through 11th graders submitted with their course registrations for next school year. And then we have 3 more youth retreats, frontier retreats for our 7th graders. They're going to be focusing on courage, 9th graders on respect, and 12th graders on wisdom. Those are all happening the week of March 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then mid-quarters is already next week. So we'll have conferences coming up in Grand Portage on Monday, November 11th. March 11th. Conferences in the evening will be here on the 12th and the 13th. And then again on that March 11th date, students do not have school due to our PD and daytime conferences up in Grand Portage. Any questions?
Do all of the spring activities have coaches and for the?
Yeah, I just actually talked with Marley yesterday and we are covered. We have a head softball coach, Ms. Fry, and we got 2 assistant baseball coaches, both in the youth, lower level, lower grade level, and then assistant for varsity. So we are covered for our spring sports.
That was the big hole, yeah.
Yeah.
So in the event that they can't do the snowmobile training, what happens with
So
that group of students?
So the DNR is still coming out to do like classroom work and stuff like that, the actual field day. I was just talking to Miss Spoon today about it, and she said we may have to just like include them next year when they come for the actual field day.
For the field day.
Yeah, so
That's currently 6th graders, right?
correct. Yep. All right.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With you too, Josh.
Oh.
Wow.
Gold stars.
You know, I'd really rather have just given some cookies or something
There you
today. I was so impressed.
All right.
I'm proud of all of us.
6.2 is the superintendent report. Make us proud.
Well, I am proud to share that February, this current month, is Minnesota School Board Recognition Month. So this is the month when we set aside time to honor the people like before us here today that dedicate their time and their energy to the service of the school district and to running the schools. I would argue that school board officials are the most ground level publicly elected officials in our democracy. In a town like Cook County, where everyone we serve sees you all the time. So thank you for your service. Mr. Reddix has been on our board since 2023. Stephanie Radloff since 2021, Rena since 2019, Dan Shirley since 2018, and Carrie, the senior board member, since 2017. So thank you very much to all 5 of you for your service. I ask folks out there to join us in thanking our school board members this month. There you go. Did I make you proud on that one?
Yes.
I've got one more thing I do want to share. Last Thursday was the first day of that midwinter break for our students. But for our faculty and staff, it was a professional development day. It was what we call our Education and Wellness Summit. And I just want to say kudos to the people that were involved in that. It was a robust day. You should see in my written report, there's kind of a chart of all the different breakout sessions that they could go to. We started our day with a keynote on understanding trauma and the developing brain, and it was a speaker brought to us by Education Minnesota, but she was outstanding. A lot of really good, rather new information about how trauma impacts the brain. And, I think much has been learned in the last 20 years in brain research on this topic. So it's really important for our teachers and our educators to stay on top of that. So, things that we didn't know 20 years ago are things like trauma can be generational, and they've studied World War II Holocaust survivors, and they're 2 generations later, and there's a physiological result 2 generations later due to the trauma that grandma or grandpa experienced in their life. And some of that was not known 20 years ago, and as we learn more and more, it's important for our team to stay up on that. So thank you to Education Minnesota for providing that. And we had a team of teachers that coordinated the event, and then of course all the facilitators that actually presented and shared, and it was really collaborative. And I'm very proud of our faculty and staff. We had enough good sessions that we had a good number of paras attend that day. We had a couple of bus drivers, just really neat professional development. So kudos to Lacey Smith and the team that put that together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely proud about that. Thank you. Any other questions for superintendent? Okay, great. We'll move on to 6.3, which is our student school board report, and Lexi Serba is here with us tonight. Hello, Lexi, how are you?
Good to meet you
Good to see you.
guys. It's been a really busy start to the semester. I feel like second semester is always ramping up. So winter sports are nearing the end of their season, and students are coming back after the February break, which was really nice. I heard like a lot of my friends were very excited to have a break around that time. Highlights for sports include the alpine skiing team making it to state and placing fourth. That was just the boys. The girls competed at sections, but they had a few crashes, so they didn't make it to state, sadly. For basketball, the boys varsity team had a game on the 12th against Hill City, winning 68-55. And then on their Instagram page, it said, "This win matches the win totals of the previous 2 seasons combined." So that's pretty cool. We also traveled to Minneapolis over the weekend to support the Minnesota Gophers men's basketball team. They were happy to cheer on former CCHS student Will Rambert. The girls' JV basketball team also had a home game against McGregor on the 13th, and they didn't end up winning, but they put up a good fight. I heard it was a pretty good game. For Nordic skiers, they traveled to Giants Ridge to compete at state. Only one of their members ended up making it, and she took 15th. That's Olia Wright, so if you see her, let her know. Elementary this month has been busy. 5th graders recently attended a field trip to Northhouse Folk School to learn about fiber arts and traditions. They've also been learning about energy sources and how to write persuasive essays. 2nd graders have been working on their reading skills by reading a variety of biographies about famous people. However, they've been having the most fun with Valentine's Day activities and celebrating the 100th year of school. There's not much to note for clubs this month except for NHS volunteering for Breeze Pantry last week on Tuesday. We were able to help out with distributing about 180 shares of food to the community. Earlier this month, we were also able to provide childcare services for guests attending the blanket exercise. That was really fun for us. And then if you guys hear about any more volunteer opportunities in town, we'd love to have more things to do. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Lexi. You made us very proud of
Oh,
you.
What, I had a quick question. What was your thought about Tori's, paper in terms of, with some of the points she brought up?
School day length?
I mean, if I probably talked to like probably over 3/4 of the school of like students would be like, yes, please. So I don't know if that's like a realistic thing for you guys to consider, but I'm sure kids would like it. I've heard some talk about like how 4-day weeks are coming into some districts. I don't know if it's like super common or not, but I've been hearing about it more. So
There's a bill in the
Like
legislature.
the long day, if they
Yeah, that's
didn't
right.
have a day on Friday, or one of the days of the week.
That was, she mentioned the 4-day thing, but you can't have a shorter day in 4 days.
yeah, that's
Unless you get rid of summer vacation.
yeah. If you guys are interested about like students' opinions on that, if you're looking more into it, I can talk to some people, send out like a Google form maybe. But I mean, if you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, the topic is coming back up, like Chris was just saying, there's a bill at the legislature to give, right now you have to apply to the Commissioner of Education in order to do something like that.
Through 4 days? Correct, and they're not approving any new ones right now, and they haven't for 10 years.
Sometime, yeah.
And so Lake County has that 4-day week schedule. So, you know, if the bill in the legislature would give like school districts like the ability to just decide, like we could decide, like we're gonna do it rather than having to apply. So if that bill were to pass, I mean, it's a conversation that could happen. you
What's
know.
the deal with starting a half hour later? You gotta stay a half hour longer then, or?
So the statute requires a minimum number of 165 days unless you're a 4-day week school district. But there is a minimum number of instructional hours. And so even if you go to a 4-day week, you still have to complete the number of hours of instruction, which is why the day gets extended. So
No, but
you could,
even in a 5-day week, why can't we start at 8:30?
we could. The issue becomes schools, kids missing even more classes for athletics and things like that. So we have, full- we have,
More class, oh, because the day, school day.
Correct. we have total control over our schedule, in terms of like when we start, when we stop. That's a board level decision.
On the other hand, if we did like, in the past, we've done a shorter school day and not had the block schedule. Sorry, my voice is so bad.
So it's not compatible with block?
So the block schedule, just pointing out that the block schedule, if a student, like my Lute is in a bunch of activities, and if he misses an afternoon of school, he's basically missed 2 days in one class. Cause it's a longer
Every
amount
other
of
day.
time and then
Instead
he's.
of all the classes in one day.
I
It's
guess.
like little shorter classes.
How many kids are missing because they missed the bus at 7 o'clock and they missed the whole damn day, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And do they miss a whole day as a result? I mean, it'd be interesting to get that
Yeah, it's-
information if we ever came to that discussion.
For sure, I mean, it's definitely an interesting question to ask, because there's a lot of aspects that come in.
And didn't we have some kind of 4-day thing for a little while?
But what happened was there was a series of budget cuts, and one of the cuts was to go from 172 instructional days to 165. So that's 6 days less of buses and all that kind of stuff. And so when I started here, we were at 165 days, and they spaced out all of the PD days and all that, so it felt like a 4-day week a lot of the time.
They talked about it for,
We talked about it
There.
seriously and
Like-
it didn't happen, and the result was in a kind of compromise,
Yep.
sort of. Where they did less days that saved on budget, but many days felt like a 4-day week.
So I have a folder in my office that's when Beth was the superintendent, and I have like all of the discussion points and all of the research behind it. I do think, Lexi, if you're looking for something for a feedback loop, it would be interesting to know what students would think of a 4-day week if,
for the block
knowing,
and the non,
knowing full well that, that would not shorten the day, that might actually lengthen it just a tad. And then there would probably need to be a discussion around, do we continue with a block schedule or not? Because in a 4-day week, you do have a lot less days, and we may need to think about how those two things impact each other. So I would be curious about student perspective on those two things, the 4-day week and then
how long has it been a block schedule?
14, I think.
No.
No.
We went
Like
to it,
17,
we went to it while I was on the board.
Okay, so more recent.
Maybe it was
2018.
5 years?
18 or 19, it was early on, I know, when I was on the board, and went to that.
I was, when I think the last year I taught was 2016 and we weren't on a block schedule yet, so it was sometime after that.
So I'm confused though. The only way you can move the school day back a half hour is to go to this 4-day week?
No,
No, that's not true.
not at all.
That's a discussion we could,
We're talking about a lot of
Theory
different
takes-
things.
I don't know.
there's lots of topics.
Just trying to
We-
confuse you.
Yeah, we could
They
change,
were.
we could change the start time next year just by making that decision, just
And
understanding.
do you have
what the
to go a
impact
half
is.
hour later? You don't have to.
Well, we would have to meet the statutory minimum number of hours.
So you would have to go a half hour
You would
later.
probably have to.
Or
go
you'd have to add
later,
more days.
or-
More days, a 6-day week, poor kids.
Yeah. You should just
But nice and
seven.
short, little
No, or
days.
just would maybe start earlier.
It was 17, 18. That's
It
what
was
we-
an,
Oh.
okay, yeah.
17, 18.
Yeah, that's another topic. Is this calendar getting voted on? This adjustment to the calendar, or is that just an adjustment?
Which calendar?
Well, then you have to adjust the calendar.
Just shorten,
We had already voted on that.
yeah, just shorten
We don't
it.
gotta vote on it again.
No.
Oh. No, this is this year, right? There's a little error.
Next year.
Oh, it's next year. Oh, I mean, next year, the one we already voted on, but there was an error. and
Correct.
It's just an administrative decision.
Correct.
Okay. See, I have some thoughts on that too. I don't agree with this going 2 weeks after Memorial Day. I think that's too long. But anyway, I should have voted that, but next year I'll be on
There
it.
you go.
You can't change next year now.
Or 2 years and, you know, one we approve next year for the year after.
I think there is, and not to extend this conversation too long, but we have to get permission from the commissioner to start like.
Before Labor Day.
Before Labor Day.
Correct.
So that's kind of.
That's statute.
That's kind of at play too.
This year we didn't have snow days to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
And if we shorten after, after Memorial Day, if we shorten the calendar, then we have to make those days somewhere, right?
well, right, but
At
we did
least
that
have a meeting
before.
on
This,
those days.
next year is the first year we'll be going 2 weeks after Memorial Day. That's too much. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Okay,
You have one vote.
and thank you.
I know, and I missed
Nancy.
it. I just voted for it blindly.
Well, it's all right, Eric. You're learning, but.
And then told him got a fast one on me.
And we don't have a February.
Doesn't it feel like the first year, everything's kind of like a really fast one because you don't know what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. It's my learning curve.
All right, team, so we're gonna move on here to 7.0, which is the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled for further discussion? If not, we just need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, motion carries. All right, 8.0 are discussion and action items. 8.1 is to accept the January 2024 expenditure revenue report, which is linked up in the packet. And Teresa is here with us as well. If there's anything that you were wanting to point out.
I can come around.
Sure.
I'm not in the corner.
Yeah, might as well.
All right. Does anyone have any specific questions? I'll let you look at it half a second.
I'm always curious about when our expenditures are starting to move away from our revenues.
Right, and so right now it looks like a big difference. And the two drivers of that are the capital outlay is the boiler project. And so that is coming out of restricted funds. And then also the debt service payments, 2 lines down, the $700,000, that those payments went out but have not been received from the state aid yet.
Revenue side, okay.
On the revenue side.
Okay.
So that would make up that large difference.
Okay,
So
thank you.
thank you for noticing that. Otherwise, those are the only two things that I had highlighted to mention.
Any other questions? Okay, I just need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 2024 expenditure as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
That was my question.
Motion carries. All right, 8.2 is to approve the seniority list for 2023, 2024. The teachers and the teachers, which is presented in the packet, and Mr. Lindholm, if there's anything you'd like to comment on that.
Just, this is an annual process, and we do it this time of year every year. It's in contracts that we have to do that, and it sets the board up for if we were ever in a cutting situation and we had to,
It's when people joined the,
when they get hired.
from the school district?
Yep, when we hire them, yep.
How come Jenny Hayes is 2017?
She's left and come back multiple times, like she was our
So you did
parent when we
nothing.
were children.
That sucks.
Right, you lose your seniority if you leave. Yep.
And these were all presented to
I feel like they
the
should
bargaining units prior to them
For a
to you.
window of time.
Yeah.
be forever.
So the bargaining units, they kind of like approve this, so to speak, or this is a
There's a window,
collaborative.
there's a window of time for them to say, hey, there's an error. Then we put it up there.
I think there was one error that I missed a degree or something.
This was my first grade para.
So you just need a motion to approve the seniority list of the teamsters and teachers. I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 8.3 is facilities presentation and discussion with DSGW, who we have here this evening.
Yeah, and as they get settled, I'll let the board know that the project oversight team, Tom and Teresa, and Rena, and myself, we spent about an hour and a half with DSGW and Natalie from ICS this afternoon. And so we went more in depth than they're gonna go into tonight. with the board, but lots of ideas are already getting put on paper, which is exciting. So, thank you, John.
John Erickson, Catherine Gerzina, we're proud to be here.
And we're proud to have you.
As Chris said, we just finished a very, an hour and a half of we were dumping a lot of information onto the group, which really was a result of all the good information we got in the feedback sessions, programming sessions that we had previously. So we take that information and we kind of start applying that into a diagram of how the school floor plan works and look for opportunities, look for, it's kind of a game of Tetris. You move one class or one room assignment over to here and it vacates that space so you can kind of move things around. So it's a puzzle at this point and it's the fun part of the process. And we got a lot of good discussion today that I think is going to give us some good direction moving forward. We're planning to be back with at least as much of the committee next Thursday that can make it for a kind of a quick update as to here's what we heard, we're on the right track. That gives us kind of that next opportunity to take the next steps to develop the design a little bit more into, a plan view, and then eventually we'll be getting into kind of the three-dimensional aspect of that. A couple of housekeeping things. Next Wednesday, we are going to be here at 2 o'clock. Mike Lavager, one of our senior partners, principals, is going to be conducting a presentation with your Native students regarding, and the topic is why our communities need more Native American architects and engineers. He's involved nationally on that level. And it's been a huge goal for his to have those opportunities to kind of promote that really as a career path opportunity. In the evening at 5 o'clock, we're going to be in Grand Portage and conducting kind of a design connection or design input session with that community to bring that connect those two opportunities to kind of bring the voice of that community into the project as well. So looking forward to it. And then we're going to be kind of looking at our March schedule and kind of looking at our best opportunities to kind of get back with some good developed next steps in the design, and then what coincides with your schedule. So we'll be in touch. And with that, I'll leave it to Catherine.
There we go.
So prior to this meeting, we met with the project oversight committee, which lasted almost 2 hours. So we're gonna shorten that up really a lot here to make this kind of as short and sweet as we can. This is the overall plan that we presented earlier this afternoon here. So maybe rather than go through the whole piece, but as you can see, there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that we're working with and opportunities that kind of lie in the school that we're gonna continue to explore more. But potentially the main spaces maybe to touch on here are so the main, maybe this first space, as this is gonna be an addition to the school, this would be an added structure piece here. It would be a new administrative wing at the front. I don't think, okay, no, is this kind of space here that we're gonna focus on, essentially enhancing the current school administration, the district admin, counseling, nursing, mental health, as we see those typically in a group. But what we're looking at as we kind of go deeper into the school is that this, I think, warrants a nice addition. It's a nice new front door for the school. It accommodates a new kind of entry corridor and vestibule, secure vestibule to get both students and visitors into the administration and then into the entry there. It also helps kind of zone a new kind of outdoor entry courtyard that'll have access to a couple of the new spaces within the school there. Moving inward, again, not trying to focus too much on some of the nitty gritty things, but the blue that you see on the screen is kind of that that central commons, that central heart hub of the school, the cafeteria, what we're calling is now the entry commons and that media commons. And what we wanna do is really look at to see how can we open that up, so it's not all these walls, blind spots. Cause after talking last time we were here, kind of the node in the middle is your busiest hub of students crossing constantly, running into each other during the hours and such. So how can we make that more open, make it more visible, make it more welcoming for both students, faculty, visitors, visiting teams, community members, etc. And so what we're looking at is really opening that up with the commons. And then how does that connect then with that with the current cafeteria space? And we have some new options there. What's shown here is, you know, just your entry sequence and how the lunch hour and stuff works, the stairway that's in there, that gets shifted over to the right, allows for a nice sequence in for the lunch line. And then having just security for the kitchen itself. So for after hours, essentially garage doors or coiling doors can come down, secure that space. Public and community events can happen without any essentially disturbance into there. And then the other area that would be in addition to the current floor plan or footprint is the space called here the flex space that would come into the courtyard space that is existing. But that would accommodate an additional classroom space, additional community space, an additional lunchroom area, activity zone for kids. During non-cafeteria hours, it can become classroom space, breakout space, really a lot of opportunities there for that. And then to move kind of up through kind of that main spine of the school, the gray area is where the current boys and girls bathrooms are. What we're proposing is to redesign that space into a more open bathroom concept, the universal style bathrooms. It allows for a lot more visibility into that space with kind of the bathrooms around the perimeter, which would include your accessible bathrooms, your ambulatory, and your standard bathrooms, along with then your sinks in the middle. But it really, again, kind of that's another node, another hub, I think, of the school that has a good amount of circulation. So it opens that up for good visibility. And then the other maybe area to focus on, as there is some additional square footage that we're looking at proposing to be added, is the athletic area. And we kind of have a little bit of two options. I think we leaned more toward the option that's kind of pulled off to the right-hand side there. But there's an option to add another single station gym as an opportunity there, and then infilling between the current gym with some additional gym storage. But then the piece we really focus on is kind of where the locker room, current boys and girls locker rooms are. In addition to the right-hand side there would be proposed to be added on for new game day visitor locker rooms that would have direct access to the varsity gym and or a new single station gym, also direct access to outdoor sport facilities there, as well as a ref room and a family restroom. And then what we looked at is the weight room expanding again on that right-hand side. The weight room expands into the classroom that's next to it. But what we kind of discussed was that rather than doing that, we would open that up for both kind of two classrooms there, move the weight room kind of where this is located on this example here, move the weight room there on the corner as part of that new kind of fitness addition. They have direct access outside, so kids in the summertime, if they want to come train and work out, they can come in here. The school's locked down, there's a lock point there, and they kind of have that, I'll say, fitness zone as an opportunity there. I'll say those are the main highlights. Again, not to quickly go through. There's, as you can see, a few other colors and spots in the school, but those are all going to kind of get worked out as we flesh out and figure out what are the main opportunities, main focus areas we really want to work through. We have a number of images to kind of help visualize some of these spaces, but maybe before we go through any of those, is there any questions anyone wants to hit on right now?
Did you add any like, for mothers, like, nursing rooms or anything, you know what I mean, like that?
Yeah, so that would be, could be part of that family restroom up by the athletics, and if that wants to go not there, typically we do one usually per level. This is just a single level, but if that wants to be maybe more toward the front or elsewhere in the school, I think we have opportunities to put in a space like that for sure.
Probably be a good idea to centralize it with the elementary and everything
Sure.
else.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And then, was there any upgrades to like the shop department for
Small
the
engines.
small engines?
That, we are waiting for correspondence from Ryan from Widseth, because he'd already greased that project. If he chooses not to engage with us on that, then we'll turn to DSGW for that. So the initial response from Ryan is that it's not as big of a headache as I thought it was gonna be. I was like surprised that the solution might be less than 150 grand. So knowing that, that I'm hoping is grease to be done this summer. So I'm just waiting for,
So I'm surprised that wasn't put into it when they revamped that
right?
and how it got passed and how it had been going on for so long.
Right. The solution will come down to one of two options. One is more of like a drop down, roll down, fire rated option. Another he was exploring a little bit was more of a curtain type approach. But either way, we just have to isolate the motors area from the rest of the shop.
Is anything contemplated in here in terms of like staff space?
Yes.
So, yep, so I don't know how hard easy it is, but the orange spaces that are currently showing on here. So we did hear last time we were up here that more dedicated staff space, or larger staff spaces were ideal, and so the elementary gym now, there's the old kind of locker rooms or storage areas. We have to look at kind of the elevation changes in those spots, but we thought that would be a great centralized staff room, and we noted it as middle school, high school. In our discussion earlier, we said that that's probably large enough or could be large enough for all staff because it is centrally located. And being right next to the cafeteria, they can, you know, if staff are getting lunch or anything like that, they get their lunch, go into their staff room. It's kind of a central hub. The one down in elementary, there is kind of the staff room there already. The thought was if all staff kind of go to that central spot, that then becomes an additional potential classroom or a future classroom or more essentially space for what is needed there. So we did discuss that, whether it is where it wants to be where it's located now or move, but we have that noted and looking at finding space for that.
Is that second floor of that space utilized too?
We were talking about that too, and
It's currently storage.
yep. And if we were to access that, we'd have to provide some sort of lift, not necessarily elevator, but a lift of some sort to be up there. So again, we'll have to kind of look into that a little bit more, but what that fully goes into, we'll examine it.
Underutilized space that we have.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought one of the interesting things was that central sort of purple area, the commons. It kind of, she didn't say, was it flows into the media center.
Yeah, we
And
take
those
that whole.
peak areas around the edges or breakout rooms or little spaces where kids can go. And just opening that up, you know, just making that more usable.
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's good. A lot of examples of the pictures, I think, when they get through.
I was gonna say, yeah,
So I'm just kind of curious, I mean, is this sort of like, where would you say we're at in the process? Is this like, this is the big wish list and we kind of go from here? Cause I'm assuming there's like a number, more or less a loose number that you could probably throw at this project, like at least a order of magnitude.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but you're exactly right, this is the wish list. Put it all on the paper, start talking about it, prioritizing how we can consolidate something, maybe make it more efficient. Get it down to square footage, and then we can start translating that into dollar figures. And that's something that we do want to get to fairly soon, because you don't wanna go too far down the path and get all in love with something that's like, gosh, it's just gonna be too much, you know, and we're gonna have to make priority hard decisions at some point.
Where's the actual entrance?
Yeah, like what's new, like where's the existing wall slash?
It's gotta be that little.
So the
Almost.
existing entrance is
Right there.
right here. Kind
You
of
can touch the screen, it's okay.
in there. The new entrance would be coming down here. This is kind of a colonnade, like promenade right there, and you would come into here and come in and then scooch
So you'd be
in.
walking into like, what's the current office?
Where the desk is right now.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And so those offices, so these little dots you see on the screen those are the existing walls right now that are structural bearing. So the proposal is essentially open that up by using the columns and then having that open space, but that is that current
Footprint.
footprint right there, that essentially that footprint moves into the new wing here where this pink space is located. That is the other district offices. So again, they kind of come over into this zone. That opens it up for
That new
Moving.
space, how far down that, like our sidewalk would that come essentially when people drop?
Point out the band door.
yeah, I was gonna say, so the band room, this suite here, there's that double door that dips down.
Yep.
So there is some, I'll say, survey land work that we'll have to kind of accommodate for, but roughly, if you know where that band door is, I mean, just a little bit out, but essentially, it's not coming into the parking lot.
Right.
Cause you know, parking is it's a thing we need to maintain. But, and again, this is a first stab, just an opportunity to kind of look through stuff. They're still gonna kind of shift and move. And even after our discussion earlier, we have some new areas that we're gonna kind of.
So this is building, what is there for grounds? Updating.
The site that over aerial.
Yes, we're just gonna, hold on. Ignore all the pictures for a second. We can come back to it.
You know, how we were talking, the field.
Right, this, they got one here. I don't know where it is.
Get close.
Oh, there we go. So we did a overlay of an opportunity for if we were to enhance the football field, providing a track surface around it as well. Maintaining the current existing bus lane, bus drop off back there, kind of how it would kind of fit on the site there. As you can see, kind of shifts a little into the forest line there, but our discussion earlier, we think this avoids some of the creek and kind of land work that we have around there, but again, just kind of putting the footprint out there to see what that could accommodate, and then to go with that, you know, if there were a new gym that sits up in here, that should be okay, and then the new locker room vestibule kind of sits near, so I'll say the sidewalk coming into the athletic area back there, that would get reworked to, you know, if that would be
Well, that's a lot
positioned
of
in there,
flat
but-
land right there.
Yep.
It's usable.
So with this footprint for the field and the track, within that drawing, there's not any sort of seating.
Correct, that would be outside of that as well. And maybe it'll just go to
Shows that band door too, so that kind of gives an idea.
couple images, so this is Rockridge up in Virginia. So the track outline, but then you see like their bleachers are just on one side right now. That is outside that footprint. Accompanying that though too is storage and concessions and toilet room, kind of hopefully, you know, kind of all go together for a opportunity for that there.
Is there, if you go back one, is there space for that, like on the, I don't know,
It
the
would-
left side of that screen, the bottom side versus like in the trees?
Right, and I mean,
Yeah.
it would be, I think, a little tight.
No. Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, and that'll be the kind of to really confirm that it can work is, there's a drainage, or pathway above on that north side that we gotta be worried about. So how much we can push that way to make room on that south side for the support spaces.
The bottom line is, it'll be tight.
Yeah.
To try to get it in there.
And then a softball would be addressed on this same.
On the
Yep,
field.
so if we were to do a better image, this field is striped for football, it's also striped for soccer. There would be the opportunity to be able to stripe it for softball.
Good, we can add sports.
Yeah, in an artificial turf situation, so it's plowable. It might be, if you could find the visual of the layout of the high school bathrooms, I think that might be something the board members would like to just get their eyes on. Because of kind of how it opens up that corner, the one that I showed the floor plan,
Oh, yep.
back a couple more, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the.
You had like 9 of them in
Yeah,
there.
I was just thinking I had a larger image, but.
Oh, I thought it was a separate image. My
I
bad.
think she just.
You just zoomed in.
I did,
Yeah.
but you know what, here, we'll zoom in on this guy.
I think even for Lexi to see that, how it looks.
That gray box up there is what.
So, yep, so this gray box right now, so that is the existing, underneath that footprint is the existing boys and girls. But what we're proposing is, so around the perimeter would be single stall bathrooms, that anybody, boys or girls, can go into. Again, this would be open, this L shape would be open. And then you're behind your closed door here, so they're full actual rooms, they're not just your stalls or anything like that. And then you have your sink area here, that is open, and then again, that can then lead you into the rest of the school.
Would any of them have sinks inside the bathroom?
Typically our accessible ones do, yep,
So the larger ones are accessible.
yep, and then usually, what we've done too is, sometimes those are quote unquote kind of more staff sometimes too, and then there's additional closets in there. So if staff wanna keep any personal products and stuff, there's a little, keypad or something, you're given the code and you have your
So we
closet.
have handicap accessible bathrooms in the elementary.
So
Is that-
right now, we're just proposing it in this area, but we did have the discussion of, does this wanna go elsewhere in the school? Does this kind of concept wanna move elsewhere into?
So I've heard feedback from teachers and staff members that work in the elementary, if they have to bring students with bathroom needs.
Mhm.
They now currently bring them over by the industrial arts, and it's really kind of a disruptive process.
Mm.
It'd be wonderful to have something in that wing of the school
Okay.
available to it's probably staff and students, but
And the way that's set up is you have,
have needs.
I think.
you have those 2 bathrooms that are wall to wall.
Well, and
That's a
to
big
some
space.
degree, I think from some of the feedback that I've heard, even just switching the male, female to a more accessible group of bathrooms. Cause another thing I've also heard is that people, because they're private bathrooms, some students choose to use them that don't have handicap needs, right?
Sure,
And so then the student from elementary comes all the way
Yep.
down and then waits. For students that probably, didn't need the
yeah,
accessibility to that as much as.
yeah, cause this
waiting
would
out.
be another prime spot too, cause again, it's on that corner, it's that nice hub. That would open up that area then too,
And then also the one right out here.
and then, yeah, these ones will.
Then we did talk as well a lot about the whole special ed areas, that there is a need for a bathroom with a possible shower and changing area. And getting that kind of into that area would help a lot. So that's some of those things that we're gonna be exploring in more detail. One of the things on the elementary restrooms with that concept of bathroom is, keep in mind that, and maybe if you wanna go to the picture, that the toilet room or the bathroom is it's a private room with a door and wall, full height walls. in elementary, sometimes staff like to be able to at least monitor that whole area. So it's one of those things where we're not always seeing it going into the elementary levels yet.
But if they're private, there's less to monitor to some degree. too,
Exactly,
right?
and
Like-
then the issue is the kid goes in the room, then you're still monitoring outside, you're still making sure that everything's okay
And
coming out and.
The really little kids, and these are typically like in the kindergarten classrooms, but could potentially be here, but we've done Dutch doors too. So the kid can still shut the door, but you can still observe, and if they need help or they somehow lock themselves in or whatever, you can easily go and do that. So that is an option for, again, that visibility at a younger age for that, so.
One of the challenges kind of moving forward too is the building code, not just Minnesota, but everywhere hasn't caught up to this yet. So they haven't officially changed the language. They're working on kind of some amendments or some white papers that say, okay, you can do this within these parameters. And we've have a lot of conversation with the state and.
My favorite,
and the-
toilet talk is what we call
Yeah,
it.
toilet talk and other firms with that are involved on projects too are working with the state Department of Labor and Industry to kind of help define that language so that we can all be on the same page and move forward and do it correctly.
So there's a couple instances, like, so obviously when you go to a model like this, one of the advantages, I guess, from a cost perspective is you can get down to a few, like, less number of fixtures. But like, when you consider some of the areas that are used like for bigger gatherings, like here we have like the theater and the restrooms, and then like by the gym, and you've got like halftime or intermission, and you've got like a lot of people using the restroom like all of a sudden at once, which is like maybe a little bit different than like the school day. Like how you kind of like navigate those situations, or what kind of like issues arise from
Yeah.
that.
And we're still, via code, we're still required to still do a number of men's and women's bathrooms, so there would still be kind of those larger banks to accommodate for those larger settings. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to do this at every location in the school, because we still need to, again, code catching up to kind of our area, our life now. But we still have to kind of look at the fixture counts and figure out, how many or what, and so I think for this style of bathroom, again, it's kind of where do those locations make the most sense? Making sure we still have the counts that are located in convenient spots for those larger activities or community events and such, so.
Is there any changes other than that flex space to the current outdoor courtyard that exists? Is there a boiler or something in it now?
So this one down.
The other one.
No, the one in the middle of like middle
Oh,
school, high
yes.
school hallway,
So
and there's like a flex space.
Yep, so nothing, that is the only spot at the moment that we're looking at expanding into, because we wanna, the classrooms that look into that courtyard right now, we wanna make sure we're not covering up all the windows that are covering into that space, and then how the current roof lines and such are in there, we wanna look into that, and then where the mechanical unit sits out there. That is, I'll say, the only added space that we're looking at, but there's some additional flex spaces that we're trying to accommodate through the school. The main bank kind of being in that media commons area.
So there won't be any access to that outdoor space for students to.
Haven't explored that there yet, but we're actually thinking maybe more on that, enhancing the lower one down by the arts center.
Yes,
Improving that access and.
to that
creating
outdoor
that.
courtyard, as it is a larger,
And then the entry, creating kind of an outdoor space off the main entry, right off the admin area, so it's a spot that's highly visible and usable, but monitorable.
I mean, because if we were to infill this, I mean, there could be a door out of this flex space into that courtyard. It just, with that large mechanical unit kind of in the center, it doesn't seem like the, let's say, nicest space to potentially wanna continue to go out.
Only that one exit, right?
Right, that's
not
the
right.
other piece that we have to work on, is as soon as it provides access, because it's enclosed all the way around, it becomes an exiting challenge.
So, yeah, we were focusing on the outdoor area that is in between the elementary wing and then this wing here. And then maybe this is just a few images of, you know, what options could be in those zones. This is Rockridge again, but you build it out into more classroom space, more functional space. You have different nodes around that classes can go out, folks can, you know, play in. Again, and this is just another couple examples, but you get this at the entry of your school, different nodes of seating for those nice days that we all take for granted when we come up here in the, you know, springtime or February. And so looking at some of those spaces that we can build and just see what other opportunities we have of, I'll say, nature play zones, actual play zones, just again, those seating zones, different options of that, so.
Grab one of those commons.
Yeah.
Those would be good.
So this is kind of that, what we're proposing a little bit. And I was using this space or this image as kind of a, if you think of, if you think of that flex space that we were just talking about in this kind of main hallway and then the cafeteria there. If you look at this image, if you think of where the people are sitting right now, that's that main hallway, say your cafeteria is on your right. This becomes your flex space here on your left. But essentially, like for those community events, if you have in the cafeteria, that hallway becomes anti-space, social space. That flex space, whether it's operable partition, glass doors, these are glass garage doors that come down, open up. That allows you to have those flexible movements. If it's a classroom, maybe not the garage door, maybe the operable partition. But there's opportunities there. And again, these are just some additional images. You know, the common space, obviously some of these are two-story, we won't have that. We did discuss, you know, kind of how the low ceilings are right now as you walk in. An option to make those feel a little bit taller is to actually take out the ceiling and expose it, like we see a lot of places. That's kind of the aesthetic we see now, you know, painting the structure to be white or school colors or whatever it is. And then maybe dropping in some acoustics or clouds, different lighting zones, things like that there, so.
Is that a cost savings too?
Could be, maybe.
Yeah, debatable. You can kind of see too a lot of the role that furniture plays in all of this. It's a huge part of the whole kind of creating those spaces, environments and zones.
So I'm gonna just kind of go through these. If anyone sees anything they want, feel free to ask a question.
At one point, there was some discussion, I was like getting on a bus, and looking at the buildings, is that still?
Tours, I think, is still a possibility. I think as we kind of narrow in on maybe some solutions, you know, Rockridge would certainly be one that we can go to and see a number of these things. Scale wise, it's going to be a much different scale, obviously, but there are some of those features that would be relatable.
Yeah, this is kind of that, what would become the current high school library. This is essentially what would kind of envision that being a little bit more open, more of that kind of Barnes and Noble style seating of like, you can have your different nodes, comfy seating, kind of that coffee shop sort of vibe a little bit. Shorter book stacks, so you still get that security and that visual over that space, but it can kind of bleed out into different zones of technology, kind of those flex group rooms that you can that are typically usually are either all glass or a good chunk glass, so you can again have that visual connection with whoever is in there.
That's only the high school, right? The elementary library is the same, or?
So elementary, we haven't, I mean, that will be kind of that shopping list of, do we need we with those flex rooms kind of in that middle, we took a little bit of square footage from the elementary. You know, but there's opportunities, there'll be an image, you know, this could be an opportunity for the elementary as you, again, it's kind of that furniture aspect. You get these fun little reading nooks and nodes that the kids can feel comfortable going to grab their book and read in. Not necessarily maybe, adding square footage, but it's just kind of redoing the space a little bit for some of those different characteristics.
Probably not maybe opening it up to the hallway per se as much as you would on the high school side, kind of keeping it.
But even if it could just look like that instead of the eighties,
Right. And this
Call that
It's like when I was in.
That looks like the sixties.
You have you have refreshing spaces, and then you have remodeling spaces. and
Yep.
things
Yeah.
like that.
Yep. So yeah, I think we're gonna touch on everything, exactly, we're gonna have the additions, we're gonna have the remodel, and then we're just gonna have the refresh. Those are the toilets, these are like kind of the flex spaces, again, it all comes down to kind of that furniture, how you wanna see it, again, and the technology that kind of comes in here. And a lot of it is the flexible furniture, you see a lot of things are on wheels, so kids can move the furniture depending on what kind of group work they're in, or, small groups, large groups. What the teachers potentially looking at. And some of these are, elementary-ish space, but they can go into whatever age group, but this is kind of that garage door scenario you have on the right-hand side there. This image is it's starting to open, so all of a sudden you get more square footage to your classroom because you get to expand kind of out in the hallway or out into the different.
For a safety point with those and all the glass everywhere, is that all like bulletproof then?
So it's actually not, but there's many studies that very, counterintuitive, but you think it's actually, when a school is a lot more open and visible, it's actually a lot more safe.
That makes sense in a way,
It's-
because people can't come like,
There's not hiding.
Yeah.
It's all about,
everybody can
It's
see
almost that
somebody
comfort
walking
level,
through that's
you know,
not supposed to be there.
it's
It's a
interesting.
combination of both.
Yeah, it's interesting is some of the comments about this, like even for students being in open classes that have a lot of glass around them and windows, and you can see what's going on outside the wall. Isn't that distracting to students? And the response from other districts that have kind of gone down that path and done a large scale, either new building, is that initially, yes, it's distracting to some point, but then they get used to it and it just becomes part of their normal. And what they find is that behavior is improved because everybody knows that everybody can be kind of seen. So there's not really those behind closed doors.
I get that, but like in a lockdown situation, you're opening them up.
Yeah, and in a lockdown situation, it's kind of looking at the school as zones, so that you can cordon off larger parts of the area so they just can't get into those areas. So it's one of those things where you can, and and even kind of one of the reasons for putting the offices and admin in the front is so they have a good visual of, somebody who's coming in to that front entrance. As Catherine said, kind of the response, the natural response to create more of a fortress feeling safer, is that actually that has a detrimental effect to the occupants, is that it really doesn't create that safety that they may think. And it's one of those things where, bulletproof glass, don't really see a lot of bulletproof glass going in. We see a lot of 3M film going on windows, and it's really just to slow things down. The cost of bulletproof glass is not insignificant. The reality is that everybody faces is that if someone wants to, they're gonna find a way in, and really the challenge is to slow things down and provide, reduce the ability of someone to do something anonymously, if you will.
And with everything that you guys have done in the new entrance, that would be the only way in?
From a building security standpoint, yeah, we'd want to kind of evaluate the whole perimeter and all the access points. If, not sure what you have now, but if there's electronic hardware modifications so that all those doors are locked, if you have door position contact switches, bringing it to a central system that somebody can monitor on a computer. That's taking it to that level of, yes, you want to you want to have one point of entry per visitor. And you want to be able to know what's going on those other entries,
But you-
situation of somebody propping a door open, you want something that's gonna tell you that, hey, this door is propped open.
Right.
But you mentioned like in the, like gym area, in summertime and whatnot, there's option for flexibility.
Yeah,
like certain
so,
doors that you can't get past.
correct, yeah, so you kind of zone the building into secure areas that, they're tied to and, call it the emergency button at the front desk, you can put those onto the system, so all those doors close and lock. So you're kind of containing areas they can get to for after hours use, reducing the amount of space that they can get into, so they're not wandering around hallways.
It's funny because like the open concept is what it was when we were in elementary and then it went away and now it's back again. It's weird.
It's kind of coming back, not quite, it's in a different form.
This looks much fancier than like the rolling
interesting.
boards that you.
It's a little step up.
Yeah.
Maybe really quick, just, this is gym example, obviously, but this is what we, actually, I don't think we, one area that we were looking at, back to the plan here. In the blue space, in the cafeteria space, it is that single story, it's flat roof, glulam, the beautiful wood decking there that kind of comes across into that media commons. That this kind of white box, rectangle box that you see, kind of striping down from north to south. We're proposing to essentially kind of put a roof monitor or a clear story, essentially kind of bumping that up to getting some natural light bounce into the cafeteria as well as that media commons, so more of that core of the school is what we're looking at doing, and kind of an example, a little bit of a poor example, but is you see the windows there on the upper right hand corner, that way, and if you imagine the white structure being our glulam structure that currently exists, that kind of gets dumped in, that light gets dumped into there, and then that kind of spreads out and you can kind of get that borrowed light through the remaining of the school there too, so.
Sort of sad, that's like the pretty roof already though, to like
Oh, it would
scoot
be,
it along the
it would
side
still
or
be
something.
maintained.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it won't it won't go away, you'll still get the character will definitely still stay there. One option we talked about quickly too is, if if there is that new addition or that additional gym, a thought is, does that gym become more of a multi-purpose gym? Rather than putting wood floor down, do you put more of a sport court down, so there's multi-purpose community ed functions, et cetera, like that.
Used to have floors that were the softer ones in elementary and they're no longer. For a reason, I presume.
Sorry, knees. So we started playing basketball and volleyball and people were hurting their knees on it, you couldn't slide.
It just stopped.
Yep. Wood floor, there's more kind of cushion for that.
So it's set up for like pickleball and basketball and all sorts of.
But this would have like that softer floor.
But that's more of like, this is not for
not
competition,
necessarily
this is
soft,
like,
no,
this
it's-
is
Yeah.
to move the recreational activities out of the competition gyms.
Right.
That are
You could,
for
you know,
playing more.
spring sports, crappy weather outside, you could do stuff on that surface where that you.
And this isn't necessarily soft
pretty
floor,
well wood
right?
floor.
No, it's not,
It's just not wood. so-
exactly,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you still can bounce a ball, you still can.
It has some level of cushion, but not like a wood floor. It's designed to have that cushion.
The admin space or main entry, this was a thought of kind of that colonnade, bringing you into the new entry. If you picture where the tree is at the end of that right now would be your main vestibule. You kind of come in, admin suites off over here. Another just example here, this would be kind of that open outdoor courtyard in the front there. And then just a few images of some, options for admin. This would be that whoever's working up in here gets the visibility of a visitor coming in, they let them in, they check in here. They either stay in here, visit whoever they need to, or they are able to go into the school and or if a student comes in after hours, they have to get let in, et cetera, so. These are just a number of different images. Again, a lot of it comes down to just some of the furniture, and we're back to the kind of entry.
That one gym picture you showed, would that be the one you were talking about adding up by the high school gym?
Yes.
So there wouldn't be any kind of seating or anything if, because so many times that we have games going on, there's stuff that's.
To be determined,
Yep,
yeah.
that would be, either or, so it can be just solely gym with, I mean, you could fit, some chairs around the perimeter. Or if it wanted to be designed large enough that you can get however much, bleachers on one side of however many, quantity.
I think a minimum is roughly in that 7,000 square feet. If you wanna add 2 to 3 rows of bleacher seating, then. it
How
just
much do you
pushes
think a
that.
gym is?
What's that?
How much does it cost?
Oh, cost wise? I'm not gonna guess, but I will say that a gym space is a fairly cost effective square footage to build. So that's one of the things that does come up. And the fact that you've kind of got, we're actually, one of the reasons we could be cost effective with is we're abutting kind of that existing, so we can take advantage of that.
More cost effective than classroom space for
Right.
example, or
Yeah.
something.
So process wise, we come back next week.
Yeah, we'll come back with kind of a quick update to what we discussed today with some of the tweaks to make sure we're on the same page.
With the project oversight team on Thursday
Yep,
morning, right?
yep.
Okay,
Thursday morning, and we'll confirm a time, if it's 10, 11.
right. And then the board doesn't, your work session for March is actually next week. So the next time the board will actually be together with VSGW would be the board meeting for March, the regular meeting, right?
The third week.
Mhm.
The 21st.
Did we do the project oversight team like at the last meeting, the work session?
Did we,
Was that created at the work session or did we?
we just
assign
have a,
board member or how do we?
Rena's a board member on there and then it's
That was the
Tom.
meeting you were gone.
I would love to be involved. I just find it fascinating, but I don't know if it's too late, daylight and a dollar short.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
I don't know
it's
if
just
that-
the people that are meeting every 2 weeks to stay on top of it, so.
As
Maybe
long as you
what we
don't
do
have a
on the
quorum, that's all we
21st,
care
kind of
about
like
for
we
the
did
board
today.
members.
On March 21st?
Yeah, if we did a oversight committee meeting in the
Yeah,
afternoon.
yeah, let's plan on that.
Could I be at, some acceptable option?
John, what were you saying?
I remember, yeah, yes, just remind me, I gotta just remember to invite you.
Next week.
So it'd be nice to push it 2 hours, or if we could squeeze a little
Yeah.
more.
You're talking next week?
No, on the
The
21st.
21st.
Because we'll have a lot more to kind of review and discuss, and,
So you'd rather meet at like 1:30 or?
what did we do, 3 today?
The board will start at 5.
Yeah, if we did a 2 to 4:30.
You got it. 21st of March.
No lights? No lights on the field?
Those are details we haven't gotten to yet.
Not there yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
these are just the high level, like you guys get the concept and we can,
Yeah.
we as a group capture what you're talking about, things we heard in the listening sessions, things that we know are, areas of concern.
Does this include that bus garage?
so what's going in the hopper we haven't talked about yet.
No.
So, I mean, the stuff for the ACA, we didn't talk about today. We didn't talk about the lights for the baseball field. We didn't talk about the bus garage, so. Today was just initial,
Kind of starting to look what,
More of the listening session stuff, we didn't talk about the facility assessments or anything like that, so which will have all that too, but just trying to get this.
yeah, this is the conceptual stuff right now. But those are the things that will have to be on the list to say yay or nay, because when we get to a $50 million question, you might want to say no to a few things.
And I think Kevin-
Itemized?
I think Kevin from ICS has been focusing on the budgeting of the facility assessment things too.
Kevin, yeah.
And then this is, so
Yeah, and
we're
once,
working on it, but
once we kind of get square footages fleshed out a little bit better, then he'll have something to kind of bite into a little bit better.
So we never see, how's this gonna work? Do we see like a menu and it's like, this is all the stuff and here's your new gym, it's X amount, here's your
Yeah.
football field with lights and
Process.
it's, yeah.
It's kind of like a grocery list. If you exit in, then it'll tally it up and you can X in and out and start focusing on what you wanna.
When's that happen?
That'll be April, May.
That'll be in April, May, yeah.
We'll need to be strategic in that conversation about, including things that we think will get people to vote yes or something like that, like you don't want to ignore the arts community if you're gonna put up a football field, right? You gotta be strategic about that. And is it one question? Is it two questions? Is it three questions?
That'll be a long one.
There's a lot of strategy.
Yep, exactly.
Good question.
Yeah, I think there's a schedule at one point we put together where the date that you have to decide by. Because then we have to do review comment and those kind of.
May board meeting is the goal.
Yeah, and you might have to have a special session, maybe.
Yep. So.
Additional.
And I think the May board meeting would be the action meeting, and then prior meetings leading up to that would be your
Actual hashing it out.
actual hashing it out.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be like, I gotta make a decision tonight. No way.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have any more questions for DSGW, the last item on the agenda, the next item on the agenda pertains to this conversation a bit. If you want to move there.
Sure. Yeah. Everybody good?
Yeah,
All right.
those numbers seem way off
Numbers?
on the next one.
Okay, thank you. Are you guys sticking around for that conversation? Or?
Sure.
Is this information from Ehlers?
So, yeah, so the 8.5.
I'll probably-
Tax comparison.
That's okay. Oh, is that tax impact?
Yeah, this is.
Average home value, was that
This is
5
public,
years ago?
this is public data, and Ehlers has a tool that allows us to go out and select. What are there, 8 districts up there, 8 other districts to compare ourselves to, and so I chose to just grab the ones that are close to us, right, our neighbors, Lake Superior, Ely.
Yeah, is this value based on assessment or value based on actual value that people are selling their homes for? Because that's about twice as much.
It's gotta be assessment.
It's just assessed value.
Assessment.
That's the only public record that they could grab.
Right. So grabbing a $250,000 house, now the next slides are gonna be oftentimes broken down by what it costs the owner of a $250,000 home or a per pupil breakdown. Just walk through some of these. I think it's relevant to the conversation around referendum when we look at our neighbors. Net tax capacity, what we know about Cook County is the overall value of properties in Cook County is extremely high. That's not a surprise to anybody. That's why a referendum for brick and mortar impacts our taxpayers a lot less than other districts. This is the referendum market value, so how we compare for an operating levy for our $800 per pupil operating levy. You can still see that our values in Cook County are much higher than many of our neighbors, or all of our neighbors. Getting into the weeds a little bit. 2024 school property taxes as a percent of household income. So they're taking public data on household income at $79,000, and then what percentage of that ends up being spent on school taxes. You can see we compare quite good to some of our neighbors on this. I see Rock Ridge is a little bit less. But all the rest were higher on. School debt taxes, so not all debt, or not all school taxes, but debt taxes as a percent of median income, very little.
So that would be like our
mortgage,
from our last capital campaign for.
Yep.
The
2016 a bond referendum and whatever was prior to that.
Yep.
And then this is the total look. So the total school debt taxes payable, or I'm sorry, it's not total overall. Total school debt taxes payable. It's the same data, just looked a different way. The difference here is what's voter approved and what's not. So you can see some districts, ESCO is one that doesn't have any voter approved. that there.
Just
This is-
got a whole.
This is the one I was looking for. Total school property taxes on a commercial property with a value of 1.5 million. Yeah, Chisholm is in a, I don't know what their story is, but. This is the total taxes paid. This is the one I was thinking of earlier. For the owner of a $250,000 house, this is how it kind of breaks out. The orange would be operating referendum. Blue would be the taxes on all properties in Cook County.
We can't read the blue, or is it, or is
Yeah,
it 215 the orange, 130?
215 is 133 plus, yeah.
Okay, so it's the two together. Okay, thank you.
Just.
Making sure I'm understanding.
So is this a linear correlation to home value? So if you were to say like double the home value to 500,000 instead of 250, can you just double all these numbers?
That's a good question. I don't know. I could go punch it into the spreadsheet and find that out.
Yeah.
Cause it is just plunking it in.
So, I sometimes this stuff sort of escapes me a little bit, but what does this mean for us in terms of going out asking for? What are we supposed to get from this?
Yep. Well, one of the questions I always am more curious about as a homeowner myself is, are we paying more taxes than our neighbors for school? This answers the question, no, I, as a homeowner in Cook County, am paying school taxes far less than all of our neighbors. That's the takeaway for me and the message for our public, which is actually, we as a district, a taxing school district, are taxing our taxpayers far less than all of our neighbors.
So why is that? Is it just 'cause it's a smaller school, more efficient, impact aid? What's the?
I think it's a lot of things. One, we're fortunate to have high property values, right? And tax capacity is very high. But then what's the story of Cook County? It's a good question, right? I appreciate your question.
But you don't have the answer.
I don't have the answer.
We want you to magically.
I don't have that answer. It's interesting to me.
So it's really kind of just part of our story is we're talking about this, that, look, right now, we're not really,
The perception looks better.
compared to other districts, we're still, even if we do this, we're still gonna be less than our neighbors.
Right. In
Right?
the narrative, when we get to the point of actually telling the story on this with the
Right.
public, that graph right there to me speaks volumes.
Right. Well,
And
better
you'll
to
be
be
able
us
to
than,
monitor that if you'd say, well, if we went for this much, what would that graph look like?
Right.
Millers will be on board the whole time with us throughout too.
right?
Yeah.
Well, you could always say better to be Cook County than Chisholm
Right?
for lots of reasons, but.
Well, and that's just, and this graphic is just for the homeowners. This isn't the commercial property impact, right? That's
That's
just,
true. And back here was the $1.5 million commercial property comparison look.
yep, okay.
But really, it's the next slide, go down one. Yeah, that one, because won't the impact of a question be on the blue portion?
Correct.
And so that's kind of, because that's putting that impact on all taxpayers, not just those who are residing in
Exactly,
Cook County. So that's the other piece of the story.
Mhm.
right. A really good piece of the story.
That was something, like last time around, I found people really, when you explained, well, no, this particular question will be covered by everybody, including seasonal recreational.
Right.
People were like, yeah, let's get them to pay for it.
For
I
sure.
feel like people really responded to that.
No,
What's the only way that you can get those other properties to participate in our community, which they all want to be here? And so that's kind of their way to participate.
So Todd Rapp will be at one of our future work sessions. Natalie will have him up here. He's this communication consultant. And when I met with him 2 months ago with Natalie, he almost chuckled at this reality. Because, you know, what a $30 million referendum would cost someone in St. Louis County or some other place. That's probably not a good example, but Ely will cost pennies in Cook County. So it's a very different funding based formula.
Yeah, Chisholm
We're
must have done a
fortunate.
big build out project or something, and they don't have
Right?
as good.
They're paying a lot on their net tax capacity. So it's good to be in Cook County. That's, you know,
We're sitting in front of the county for asking for this too, right? They're still a ways out, aren't they?
are they? I don't know.
Are they gonna be doing that this?
They're, I think they're behind us. They're not,
Hopefully.
yeah, no, they are. They're just, they
That'd be
just
nice.
decided to
That's why
pick.
we gotta get in front of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
They won't be there by May when we're doing it.
Well, that's good news.
I don't think so.
We're almost
Well,
out.
is their campaign gonna result in a question or are they just doing it?
So, I mean, there's what ultimately has to, it's a voter, different kind of a voter referendum. I don't think they'll be ready for that. Come November. They're sitting there waiting to see if they're gonna get something from the state. And then they were gonna try and get half
Bonding
of it,
bills.
So
but
they're a ways behind still. Hopefully.
I mean, if they were not getting the state, they would need to, for what they're trying to do, they would need to go out and like or something.
Alright, well, are you guys dreaming big enough on that floor plan there?
They said they didn't add everything in yet.
We never get asked that question.
Well, loud, yeah, whatever you want.
Can we have like a hangar out there with some covered outdoor space?
Well, I hope this is helpful for you to just see that it's a good day to be in Cook County. I mean, Cook County is one of the few districts in Minnesota where I would say going out during a general election is probably not a bad idea. And in a lot of districts, you just never do that. So here we go, right?
You know, like putting that out there, Dan, like the commons area and putting a roof and retractable doors wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, I mean, I say
We
that
use
sort
it
of
so
in
much more
jest,
often.
but also kind of seriously,
True.
like, you think about the
What did you
outdoor
just say?
space. Well, covering some outdoor space.
Oh, like a dome.
Yeah, or even just a,
Retractable kind of.
yeah. A pavilion that has retractable doors, that there's no heat or nothing, but at least you could shut. You know how windy it is up here.
Dreaming big.
Well, I mean, he put it out there, so.
It was a directive, I think.
I really have always been disappointed at our outdoor classrooms location next to all the roads when we have this beautiful space behind us
Forest.
that's much more lovely outdoor.
Right. All right,
To walk
good deal.
out to like the outdoor pavilion classroom.
Okay, thank you. We have just a little bit more business to do here and then we'll be done. So we'll move on to 9.0, which is personnel. 9.1 is our new hires, resignations, leave of absence, right here in the packet.
We are ecstatic that we have a custodian. Starts Monday, yeah, starts Monday.
Great.
Thank you so much to Krista Olson. She's been really
Phenomenal.
integral in getting community ed back on the board.
Bring it back from the dead.
Yeah, bringing it back from the dead, dusting it off and
For sure, yes.
reinvigorating it. It's been great work that she's done and best wishes to her.
Yep,
Luckily, she's here until the end of April, so that gives us a little time, so.
yep, that's
Classy, that let us know.
for sure. Yeah, no, she's great. We'll definitely miss her. All right, we just need a motion to accept this.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
second that.
Okay, we're adjourned at 6:38. Thank you very much. I'll see you all,